When I started learning to code, the end goal was to try and get a job as soon as possible, and I know a lot of people want to know what the quickest way of getting a job is, and that's what this video is about. I wrote my first line of code in 2016, and I decided to get serious about getting into tech about a year and a half ago. I started with cloud computing and then decided that I wanted to do web development, and I was teaching myself whilst working full time. Then I ended up going to a coding bootcamp, and finally I now have a role as a junior at a growing fintech company in London. I made countless mistakes along the way. I wasted hours watching tutorial videos and I spent money on courses that didn't benefit me. It took nearly 6 years between writing my first line of code and getting a job as a junior. But can you become a software engineer way quicker than that? Absolutely. I'll help you avoid all the mistakes that I made and streamline the process based on my experiences and get you from zero to a software engineer in months. When trying to learn to code, the biggest decision you'll have to make is decide what language you're going to code in, and it's a big decision. Based on the fact that you're trying to get a job as soon as possible, this is my criteria on picking a language. Ease of use, because naturally as a beginner, it needs to be easy to get you started and easy to keep you going. Whether this language will help you understand coding concepts. Understanding coding concepts is vital and it will help you if you ever look to learn any other languages. The documentation of a language and the community surrounding it is equally important. When you're stuck on a code or trying to get some help, you need to know that you'll be able to get the help as quickly as possible. Real world application. How easy is it to build projects and showcase your ability to potential employers? Last but not least, opportunities. How many opportunities are there for this given language? And considering all the above, I'd recommend JavaScript. Now, it may sound controversial, a lot of people would recommend Python. Naturally, I have my reasoning. There's a great JavaScript community. New frameworks are coming out every day and the industry cares about this language. Companies are constantly open sourcing their projects all the time. This language isn't going away anytime soon. As a beginner, I really feel like getting quick wins is important to help you keep on track. And with JavaScript, you get quick visual feedback on your code. You can build the front end and the back end with JavaScript. You can use it for scraping web pages. JavaScript is so versatile, and there's this cool quote about its versatility called Atwood's Law. It goes, and I quote, "Any application that can be written in JavaScript will eventually be written in JavaScript." Also, you can use it in coding interviews as well. It's super easy to start, it doesn't need to compile, and it's really fun. Download an IDE like VS Code, go through the basics of HTML and CSS, and once you start with JavaScript, you get to see your results really quickly and the quality of visual output increases linearly with time, and that's a really good feeling. And I think a lot of people discount the importance of enjoying this learning journey. It's quite possible that you're looking to make a career out of this, so enjoyment is key or else you end up burning out. And a lot of the time, it's difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, admittedly, JavaScript can be a bit quirky at times, but you're not looking to master JavaScript. All you're looking to do is to understand enough coding concepts to get you your first role. Now we've established what language we're going with, it's imperative that you do not make the same mistake I and many other newbies have made, getting stuck in tutorial hell. I spent an insane amount of hours watching tutorial videos, following along, and sometimes I'd even go on travel journeys and watch tutorials as if I'd just absorbed the information from watching it. Constantly watching tutorials is like watching Goku turn Super Saiyan over 9,000 times and then falsely believing you can turn Super Saiyan too. That'll never work, so don't try and become a Super Saiyan and don't do what I did. Instead, do this. Enroll yourself on Free Code Cab or the Odin Project. They're great because they're free, number one. And number two, not only do they teach you to code, they also give you project ideas to help you implement what you've learned as soon as you've learned it. And if you are watching tutorials, use it to supplement your learning and target videos to help you explain areas that you're not too sure on. You don't need to spend any money to learn to code. All the information you need is out there for completely free. I spent loads of money on courses that I didn't even finish, but if you must spend, there are some great courses on Udemy. Go for something that's got a high rating and go through the outline of the course with a fine-tooth comb. There are some things you want to check when considering which course to buy. Number one, check to see if they've got exercises to help test your knowledge. Number two, make sure there are mini projects to help implement what you've learned. Number three, and most importantly, ensure that the course is engaging and that you will enjoy building the things they're going to ask of you. And this last point is just a bonus point to help you save money. But as an expert who's wasted loads of money on courses that I've never finished, If you actually go on the content creator's social media, a lot of the time you can find discount codes to help you reduce the cost of the course. I've not started many courses that I've purchased, forget about finishing them, but out of all the ones that I've purchased, if I had to recommend one course, it would have to be Jonas Schmetman's JavaScript course. Learn the coding concepts, and as soon as you have a good understanding of coding concepts, start building projects. I learned so much more in the few days building a project than I did in the months following along on tutorials. Yes, I know it's scary trying to build a project from scratch, but the only way that you're going to gap the bridge between being a beginner and an intermediate coder is by leaving the comfort zone known as tutorial hell. You can then start learning frameworks for the front end or the back end, or even both, depending on what you want to achieve. Learn version control and get a good understanding of Git, and get your projects on GitHub and make sure they're set to public. Consider deploying your projects on somewhere like Netlify. Once you've got some projects under your belt, go out there and go to some hackathons. You probably won't win anything. Heck, you probably will be trash, but that doesn't matter. Go on Google and search hackathons in my city. Honestly, winning is the least important thing. You're going outside of your comfort zone. You're learning how to code in teams. You're bettering your communication skills. You're debugging code. And most of all, you're having fun. So now you have an understanding of Git and version control. You've come up with ideas, coded these ideas, come across errors, debugged, fixed the code, rewrote the code. You've deployed your code. You've also worked in teams. You're basically a software engineer without the title. Let's get you the title. Now it's time to get ready for interviews. A lot of newbies believe that only building projects is a surefire way of getting you a job. And in a few cases, it can. I went to interviews heavily underprepared, and I learned the hard way that building projects is only half the battle. The reality is that building projects is only enough to get you an interview. It would be great if tech companies would look at your projects and say, yup, you can code, come right in, but that's far from the case. A lot of the tech companies will use coding tests to test your ability, and now you need to prepare for them. First, I would start with free code camps, algorithm and data structures tutorials for beginners to understand its importance. Once you have a good understanding of what data structures and algorithms are, it's time to start grinding LeetCode. Tackling the behemoth known as LeetCode is really scary, but I found a really great channel called NeetCode that breaks down how they believe it's best to grind LeetCode. I've spent a lot of time on that channel, and they recently got a job at a big tech company, so I'm quite confident that they know what they're talking about. They have a great guide on how to best tackle LeetCode, and they've even put together a website telling you which questions to go for and in what order. Start with LeetCode easies and don't spend too long on any question. If you get really stuck, get some help and understand the solution line by line, and attempt a similar question and apply what you've learned. Then move on progressively. You've fixed up your CV or your resume, and you've included links to your GitHub and your projects, and you're preparing for coding tests. It's now time to start applying for jobs. Some people will get a job after their first interview, and I really hope that's the case for you. But for a lot of people, it's a long grind with a lot of up and down. It certainly was the case for me. Sometimes I went to interviews and I thought I'd really prepared, and I'd get a coding question that I just couldn't answer. I'd leave the interview feeling completely dejected with a new intense dose of imposter syndrome. You start to feel like you don't deserve a place as a software engineer, that you don't belong, or that you just don't have the intelligence required to get the role. None of that is true. I know a lot of people that couldn't get past this hurdle because it's really difficult to constantly grind and take a hit, being rejected over and over again. But you cannot give up here. All you have to do is look back to where you were a few months ago, and now you're in a position where you're being shortlisted for interviews for a role that you worked so hard for. Yes, I understand how dejected you are and how difficult it is to be rejected, but look how far you've come. And if you keep going, you will get a job. There is a job out there for you with your name on it, as long as you keep pushing. So I've streamlined my whole journey, took out all the fluff, and warned you of all the mistakes that I've made. Keep grinding and keep going, and remember that every failure is an opportunity to close the gap in your knowledge and to get closer to your goal. A day will come where you're laughing at all your struggles because you are where you want to be. That's all I've got today. This is Mohammed, and I'll see you guys on the other side.